Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the Pixel 6 Pro has been out for a little over 2 months at this point. I've been using it every single day since it released and wanted to share what it's like as far as its overall durability, since I haven't used a screen protector the entire time, as well as why this might be the perfect phone if you're maybe switching from an iPhone to an Android phone. And so for any of you that watch this channel, you probably already know that I use an iPhone 13 Pro Max full time. Along with this, I also carry an Android device. I've been covering Android devices since the very first version of Android came out, and this is the phone that I've been carrying for the past 2 months. Before this, I carried a Pixel 5 with me as well, along with the iPhone. And so I have a pretty good understanding and idea of what it's like to use this phone, and I wanted to wait until the first update was released because it had some bugs. There were some issues here and there, and I wanted to have them address that before I went and reviewed it. Now, the first thing is its design. The design is really nice. It feels very ergonomic, and it's a nice size. It's fairly tall, but it feels good and has a nice curved edge, which feels very ergonomic. However, it's a very slippery phone, and it's glass front and back, and the back glass shows a lot of fingerprints very easily. You can see here I have a bunch already, and that's just from filming this video. Right before this, I wiped the phone off, so it picks up fingerprints very easily. I do like the camera bar at the back. You either love this or you don't, and it reminds me of a Nexus. So this I kind of like. It's a little bit different than everything out there, and it also prevents the phone from rocking when you're typing on it on a table or a surface, and so it seems to be great as far as that goes. Also, if you're holding onto the phone, it sort of provides a lip to put your finger under. You don't cover the camera, so that's sort of a nice design element. Depending on how you're holding it, it doesn't really matter. It sort of keeps it as a way to not really cover the camera and just is fairly comfortable to hold on to. However, because it's so slippery, I've been using a case with it. I picked up the Google case. This is sort of the stormy black or a translucent sort of smoke color. And let's put this on here, and I've been using it like this, but I have not been using a screen protector. And the display is held up pretty well. So I don't have a single scratch on it with this Gorilla Glass Victus. There's not a scratch anywhere on it, nothing to be seen. So it's held up very well. I put it in a backpack. I put it on a table, in my pocket, on the charger, and that's about it. So I don't really put it down on surfaces face down or anything, and it's held up really well. No issues. I have bumped it into a couple things, but it hasn't scratched at all. So it's held up very, very well. The display is really nice. It's got that super smooth 120 hertz, so it ramps up and down the speed, and it's really nice to use. It keeps the OS feeling fast and the phone feeling fast overall, and it just looks good. So you've got good viewing angles, and maybe it's not as bright as some other phones, but it seems to do pretty well as far as being able to see it in sunlight. It's probably not as bright as a 13 Pro Max, basically when using it outside, but I have no problem seeing it whatsoever. So just using it has been great. Now, this display does use PWM, or pulse width modulation, to control brightness, meaning it's flickering the screen faster or slower to control that brightness. Pretty much every OLED out there, as far as phones go, uses that. And when I first used this actually strained my eyes a little bit. About 1 in 10 people experience this, and technically the rate of PWM is high enough that it shouldn't bother anyone's eyes. However, I noticed that it seemed to bother my eyes more than the 5A 5G. So when I was using the 5A 5G, I never had a problem, but the rate is high enough where it shouldn't be an issue. However, compared to the 13 Pro Max, it's technically higher than that, but the 13 Pro Max is barely detectable when you try to measure PWM with slow motion. So as you can see at 240 frames per second slow-mo, it looks like the Pixel 6 Pro is flashing a lot more than the 13 Pro Max, despite it having a higher PWM rate. So that's something to consider. If that bothers your eyes, you may want to stick with an older Pixel device or maybe an S21 Ultra or something along those lines. But after using it for a day or so, it doesn't bother my eyes at all now. Now, the fingerprint sensor is one of the reasons I wanted to wait for that software update. Initially, it was very slow and buggy. I had to reprogram my right thumb for some reason because it wasn't working. Now, Google did say that this was sort of a design feature for security, that it might be a little slow checking your fingerprint, but it seems to work fine after the update. Since they've updated it with the December update, it works without a problem now. So it's quite fast. Not as fast as some others I've used. I actually prefer the 5A, 5G fingerprint sensor and some of the older ones, and even sometimes the face unlock of the Pixel 4 XL. But it does work fast, and it's not really too much of an issue, but I do prefer the one on the back. It just seems to be a little bit better, but I understand with the camera, they probably didn't have room internally, and it made sense to put it under the display. Now, the cameras are some of the best cameras out there, if not the best. Now, some people in a comparison, if you've seen that, preferred some of the other older Pixels, but the camera is good enough and reliable enough that I really don't have an issue with it. I can use it for thumbnails on the go. So if I want to take a picture of this phone here, snap the picture, I know it will be in focus. It will do a good job using the tensor core and the algorithm to sort of create a good photo. It takes a moment sometimes, and it does look good. And one thing it's actually been really good at is taking astrophotography photos and things like that. So I took one the other night. Let me go into photos. Now this is 4-minute exposure on a tripod, and it created this time lapse. So as you can see, the clouds are going by. You can see the sky is a night sky that's a little bit dark blue or purplish, and you can see the stars there and the clouds going through the trees. So it did a nice job here. And this is something I couldn't see with my own eyes. I couldn't see really the sky between those trees or anything. And then there's the still photo that it made out of that. So that was a 4-second exposure on a tripod. So the camera is incredible when it comes to that. However, when it comes to video, it's a little bit grainy from time to time. And the one thing I was impressed with though, with video is the microphone in this. It's better than pretty much any other phone out there with their technology to limit background noise. So if we go into the camera, we'll spin it around, go to video here. And if we go to the options, under options, you have speech enhancement. If you turn this on, it picks up your voice and limits the background noise. So now I'm recording from the Pixel 6 Pro. You can hear my voice directly from it. And I was really impressed when I did a comparison between this phone and the 13 Pro Max that it was able to do a better job at limiting the background noise with planes flying over and wind and everything else. You could just hear my voice with barely anything in the background. It did a great job. And so now you can hear what it sounds like. Of course, compared to my studio mic, it's going to be a little bit different, but you may prefer the sound of the Pixel 6 Pro over the studio mic that I use. So either way, it does a great job as far as that goes, and I've been fairly impressed. However, if you want to use it as 4K, as a 4K camera, I would say the iPhone or the S21 Ultra does a better job as far as that goes with video. This tends to be a little bit grainy. Maybe it's bumping up the ISO or ISO, and it seems to be a little bit more grainy and just not as good as those other phones. However, with photos, I think it's probably the best out there, at least in my opinion. Now, battery life, you can see I'm at 98% battery life right now, and I've been using it well, just a little bit this morning. I put it on the charger last night. Before that, I was down to about 35% after a day and a half usage. And I typically use this for social media and things like that. Now, if I go to battery, and I do have the theme switching based on time of day. So at night, this will be a dark theme. But battery usage, you can see I had a lot of social media usage and some other things here. But typically, when I'm using this, I can get through a day and a half without a problem. And I'll put it on the charger at night. No issues, it will get me through the day. But after a day and a half of use, it was down to about 38% or so last night. And my daily usage with this is actually just mostly social media. I actually like using this sometimes more than the other phones because it's just a cleaner layout. So if I am using Discord or Telegram and those communities that I have, I'll link those in the description. Or if I'm using Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, I'm using this phone a lot of the time because not only is it a smooth experience, it's a little bit different. And for those of us that have been on iOS for years, that's why I think this might be the perfect device. With Android 12 and Material U, this design is really nice where it sort of blends into the background, your different widgets. So if I change this wallpaper, go into wallpapers, change wallpaper, go to community lens, that's where I got this wallpaper, maybe switch it to something a little bit different. Maybe we'll pick this one here since it's quite a bit different. And you can see all of the different buttons and widgets change. So now it sort of blends into the background, matches a little different. And then when you pull down your notification shade, all of your buttons here match as well as your brightness slider and everything else. And so it does a great job with changing the styles, kind of giving you a fresh feel of what it's like. And if you don't like that, of course, you can customize it. But no matter what you're using, it just changes back and matches whatever you're doing. So that's something I really like. I love the sort of theming with it. You'll see how it just changed the the notification shade and the buttons there. So everything is really great with this update. Android 12 has been fairly stable after the December update for me, and I really enjoy using this, and the simplicity of it makes it really nice to use. Just simple icons, you know what you're getting, and you've got a few widgets here and there. It's very clean and something I really appreciate. It feels a little bit more fresh than what I've been using for a long time. And so if you're switching from an iPhone to this might be a good first step. If you're really into customization, a Samsung might be better for you or some other phone, but I really like the cleanness of this OS overall. Now, the speakers, when listening to videos or playing audio, are nice and clear and very loud, so that's great. They have a nice stereo sound, no issues there. And also, the reception on this is an area where it's been a little odd. So the reception, you can see right now I have, well, what looks to be a couple bars. I'm on Google Fi, which typically uses T-Mobile and switches between a couple carriers. Well, it used to be T-Mobile and Sprint and US Cellular, but it seems to get decent reception. However, sometimes I find that it's almost gone and the reception is all the way down. That's typically when I'm on Wi-Fi, so I don't notice it, but I do notice sometimes it has worse reception than my iPhone. So that's something that's pretty rare in the Android world. You'll see they're about the same. They're both on T-Mobile technically, with Google Fi being on T-Mobile right now. But you can see the bars are about the same. But sometimes I'll have no signal on the Pixel 6 Pro, and I think I've seen some things where Google said they're going to address this. So I'm not really concerned. I haven't had any issues making calls or placing any calls or texting or anything. So it hasn't really been an issue for me, but it's something worth noting. The other thing I wanted to mention is Google's Tensor Core. Their latest processor seems to be fairly fast. Occasionally you'll see some frame rate drops and hiccups, but most of the time it's nice and fast. The display is smooth, keeps it looking smooth, and the overall experience is quite good. However, it does seem to get a bit warm from time to time. So the back will get a little bit warm with regular use from my experience. So it's not really a concern for me, but maybe for some other people, but it gets warmer than maybe an iPhone 13 Pro Max. But typically it's not something I think about. It's not hot, it's just warmer than normal. So that could be the overall design with the thin glass on the back, but with a case, you don't typically notice that. So it's just something I thought I'd bring up. Otherwise, I really like this phone. I like that it gets updated every month or so and gets new features. So that recent feature drop and everything else was great to have, with over 200 fixes or so, or 100 fixes, and that fingerprint fix really made this a much better experience. So I highly recommend a Pixel 6 Pro if you're looking into one, and it's definitely something that I enjoy using. I'll be using it as the main device most of the time on social media, and it's something that I really enjoy. And I'm curious what you think of this compared to maybe the old design. I think it's really stepped up as far as the design and the overall quality of the OS with Android 12, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you wanted to get this wallpaper, of course, it's in your Pixel device, just under Wallpaper and Style, but I'll try and link it in the description if you want to try it out for yourself and you're on a different device. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.